Well, somebody will leave here tonight. The interim amateur lightweight champion of the world. Will it be Rod Moore, or does Nick Osuna have enough to get it done tonight?
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Rod Moore immediately comes out, takes control of the center of the cage. Beautiful outside leg kick there by Nick.
Wow, look at that speed from Rod. Looks pretty calm. Nice and composed.
Osuna misses right there with that inside leg kick. Slight warning there from the referee.
See Rod gauging his movement, gauging that distance. Wow. Like that speed. We're gonna start seeing some explosive movement.
Nick Osuna clutches up against the cage looking for that takedown.
Let's watch the neck.
Let's see if Rod is gonna utilize his wrestling base.
In the chest.
He looks pretty calm right here.
There you go. Keep it there. Good. Breathe.
Trying to ankle pick.
Breathe.
Such a wide base there from Rod Moore. Doing a great job at defending this takedown.
Tell he's a strong guy.
Well, he has the name the workhorse for a reason. The guy is built like an absolute truck.
Right elbow.
Just phenomenal takedown defense there. But Nick Osuna has his hand clasped right below the butt of Rod Moore. But Rod doing a great job at putting his feet inside that fence line. But Nick gets it to the ground.
And took it down.
Left underhook and let's hold that. Left underhook.
Hands in half guard.
Left underhook.
Interesting to see how this goes. Nick has a good
Right punches.
cardio when it comes to grappling. And like I said, Rod is wrestling base.
Right punches.
Although this is a 5-minute round or a 5-round fight because this is a championship bout. So will that play a part?
Punches with the right. Up, right in. Leave that left under there. Leave that left under there. We just went under it. Remember? There you go. Right in. Good. Keep your head inside. Head inside. There you go. Stop. Stop on with the elbow. Huh? It's okay.
Rod controlling that arm from Nick. Punches it.
Yeah, Rod doing a great job at neutralizing any threat here from Osuna. And this is a big victory here for Rod Moore, as even though he got taken down to the ground, there was really no damage that was done by Osuna.
I like the 5 rounds because usually when fighters come in, there's not as much overzealous going on, right? There's not as much anxiety. They take their time and really feel out their opponent and see where they can come in and dominate.
And as we look at the replay, we'll see that takedown.
Watch Nicholas here commit.
And really, it was just got the hands clasped together underneath the butt, swept his legs out from underneath him, and immediately put Rod to his back. Obviously, with that takedown, probably likely to assume that Osuna will take that round. And I see it.
The crowd buzzed with a primal energy, the kind that only surfaced when two reputations, built on blood and defiance, prepared to collide. Under the glaring lights of the arena, Nick Osuna stood in his corner with the calm poise of a man born for battle. Known for his surgical striking and his ability to keep opponents guessing with a blend of unorthodox rhythm and punishing precision, Osuna didn't need to balance or posture. He just stared ahead, a fire burning slow behind his eyes. Across from him, Rodmore paced like a caged wolf, muscles coiled tight, nostrils flared, fists twitching with anticipation. He was pure pressure, aggression personified. Where Osuna danced and dissected, Moore smashed and suffocated. Every step he took toward the center of the cage felt heavier, more dangerous. His team stood back, knowing once the door shut, the only thing that mattered was Moore's will. The referee brought them to the center. No glove touch, just tension. You could hear the breath of the crowd when the bell rang. Moore exploded forward like a wrecking ball, swinging hooks that screamed violence. Osuna moved laterally, narrowly avoiding the opening salvo, already reading the patterns. He planted and countered with a slick jab that snapped Moore's head back, then pivoted and delivered a liver shot that echoed with a thud. Moore grunted, but didn't slow. He kept pressing, trying to corner Osuna against the cage, but the footwork was too sharp, the angles too tight. Osuna began to pepper Moore with quick combinations. Jab, jab, inside leg kick. Step back. Repeat. Moore absorbed them and returned fire, digging a left hook to Osuna's ribs, then forcing him into a clinch. The two men slammed into the fence, Moore grinding forward with shoulder pressure, throwing knees into the thigh. Osuna answered with short elbows to the temple. One of them opened a small cut over Moore's eyebrow. Blood began to trickle. Moore didn't care. He pushed harder, dragging Osuna down into a half takedown, almost completing it before Osuna reversed, bounced off the cage, and circled out. The crowd roared at the escape. Moore charged again, and this time Osuna met him with a devastating uppercut that clipped his chin. Moore staggered for the first time, eyes wide with surprise, but still didn't fall. He growled, an actual growl, and swung again. Osuna leaned back just enough to avoid it and punished with a right cross to the nose. By the end of round one, Moore had absorbed more damage than in most of his previous fights combined. But his pressure didn't fade. Osuna returned to his corner with blood on his gloves and a small welt on his left cheek. Moore stomped to his stool like a man denied, ready to explode again. Round two began at a more measured pace. Moore knew now that walking through fire wouldn't work on Osuna without a plan. He used feints, tried to get Osuna to react. Osuna remained poised. He checked the leg kicks, slipped the jabs, and began attacking with combinations that came in waves, fast, light, then suddenly heavy. A jab to the eye, a spinning back kick to the body, a knee that just grazed the chin. Moore finally landed a shot that mattered. A short right hand on the inside that stunned Osuna just enough for Moore to drive him to the canvas. It was his moment. Moore postured up and dropped hammers. Osuna's guard was tight, moving with every strike, but Moore's fists crashed down like stone. He passed a half guard, then to mount. The crowd screamed. Osuna bucked and twisted. Moore rained down a brutal elbow that cracked against his forehead. Blood bloomed. Osuna's mind stayed clear. Despite the chaos, he used a hip escape, bridged, trapped an arm, and slid out the side. The movement was technical beauty. He stood, wiping blood from his face with the back of his glove, and fired a kick at Moore's thigh that sounded like a baseball bat. Moore stumbled. Osuna was back in control, though his breathing had grown heavier. The tide shifted minute by minute. The horn ended round two, with Osuna landing a left hook and Moore shrugging it off, eyes wild, blood dripping. Round three began with an eerie sense of inevitability. Both men had now tasted the worst of each other, and though their styles clashed with chaos, a strange rhythm had formed between them. The cage was their battleground, but within it was a brutal dance, one of footwork, violence, and unrelenting will. Osuna, face cut and swelling, moved like a man who'd been here 1,000 times before. He was calm, calculated. Every breath was measured, every feint a trap. Moore, raw and powerful, looked like a storm still gathering strength despite the war waging on his face. They met in the center of the cage again, this time with less speed, but more danger in every step. Moore was slower now, his feet heavier, but he was still marching forward, still forcing Osuna to work. Osuna snapped a low kick that landed flush on Moore's already bruised thigh, causing a grimace. Moore swung with a looping right hand, but Osuna rolled under it and punished the attempt with a shovel hook to the liver. Moore froze for half a second, just long enough for Osuna to follow with a head kick that partially grazed his temple. Moore wobbled, but didn't fall. He clinched. Osuna tried to break free, but Moore had the grip of a vice. He slammed a knee into Osuna's midsection, then another. Osuna's breath hitched, and Moore capitalized, dragging him down into another takedown. This time, Osuna landed hard, and Moore immediately advanced position, pinning one arm and beginning his ground assault. The strikes rained down, mostly to the body and side of the head, keeping Osuna defending, unable to build his
Body when he can, firing those punches. See, Rod's not letting him step over. Oh, he gets it anyway.
And right now, Osuna's in half guard and just controlling both sides of Rod Moore's body, which is what's causing him to remain flat on his back. On that far side, he's got the underhook, which is keeping him flat. And then on the opposite side, where the half guard exchange is, obviously that's what's controlling the left side of Rod's body. But honestly, this is good for Rod Moore because he's not taking any damage here, and he has the opportunity to just recover and neutralize any threat from Osuna. But Osuna, relentless with the transitions, passes to side control.
Can you see those elbows, that legs?
And Rod really wants to get a hook back in, start transitioning so that he can create some space here. He's got to start shrimping, using his frames to create space where Osuna will control him here all night.
It looks like Nick is getting him exactly where he wants him, right up against this fence where he can't make any more movement away from him. Striking from top, just hitting him with his body.
And I actually like that round for Rod Moore because I feel like that could be the round that gives him the ability to recover and come back and actually win this fight. He didn't take a lot of damage, and he had enough time to shake the cobwebs from what happened in round two. So we'll take a look here at the replay. And as Rod was pushing forward, Nick just put his head down, double leg takedown, and just DC style immediately went for the leg lace.
Yeah, and that lets you know the power that Rod has in his punches. Nick did not like those, so he went immediately to that.
Immediately
that
shot
takedown.
for the takedown there.
Don't worry about it, right? Okay?
Well, 4 to 5 rounds in this championship bout. And this is really what it's all about, the championship rounds. Who has what it takes to become the interim lightweight champion? And Osuna, again, immediately back to those takedowns. Looking to control Rod Moore on the ground.
Look at Rod's balance. break that grip there, not allowing him to go back to getting both hands around his legs.
Up, up.
But the thing about Nick, he's so committed. Look, he's
And
going
he's
straight
just-
back to the other one.
He's just relentless with the takedowns too. If the single leg doesn't work, he goes for the double. If the double doesn't work,
Nice
he's
sprawl.
going to transition back to an ankle kick. He's back in
base. But Osuna, ever the technician, began working quietly, sliding his knee into position, framing with his free arm, slowly creating space. He burst upward in a powerful scramble, but Moore clung like a shadow, adjusting his grip and attempting to take the back. Osuna turned into him, narrowly avoiding full back control, and used his elbow to break free. They stood again. Osuna's face was crimson now, the cut on his forehead gushing steadily. Moore's right, I was almost swollen shut, and the bruises on his legs turned deep purple. Still, they fought on. Osuna jabbed at range, then stepped in with a perfect straight left down the pipe. Moore absorbed it, but responded with an uppercut that snapped Osuna's head back. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Osuna wavered on his feet. Moore surged forward, sensing vulnerability. A left hook, a right. Osuna circled, retreating, trying to shake off the cobwebs. Moore pursued, hammering his ribs with body shots, then ducking low for another takedown. But this time, Osuna saw it coming. He sprawled, turned, and punished Moore with a knee to the side of the head as he rose. Moore dropped to one knee, his hands up trying to survive. Osuna stepped in, landing 2 hard punches before the horn saved Moore from more damage. Both corners were frantic now. Osuna's team demanded movement, angles, and space. Moore's corner screamed for heart, for grit, for something primal. They answered the bell for round 4 with no hesitation. This round started slower, less wildness, more awareness of what they had already endured. Moore tried to keep Osuna close, knowing that giving him space meant punishment. He pressed him against the fence again, using every ounce of strength he had to control position. Osuna fought the clinch with everything, digging underhooks, pushing the face, breaking grips. He created space, stepped out, and fired a head kick that Moore barely ducked. Osuna followed with a knee to the body, a right hand, then a low kick. Moore threw a haymaker in response and missed by inches. His footwork had grown sloppy, his breath loud and labored. Osuna's strikes weren't as fast as in round 1, but they were sharp enough. A jab snapped Moore's nose, then another. Moore shook his head and walked forward, arms dropping slightly. Osuna launched a switch kick to the body that landed with a dull thump. Moore staggered, but again he didn't fall. He refused. Instead, he bit down and fired a desperate right hand that caught Osuna clean on the chin. The striker stumbled backward. Moore came forward, swinging, but Osuna clinched and slowed the attack. They struggled against the fence, each man pouring out whatever was left. A final elbow from Osuna broke the clinch, and the round ended with both men bleeding, exhausted but unbroken. The bell for the 5th and final round echoed through the arena like a war drum. The entire venue rose to its feet. Fans, coaches, even fellow fighters leaned forward in awe, their faces lit with disbelief at the spectacle still unfolding. Both Nick Osuna and Rod Moore stood in the center of the cage, barely recognizable. Osuna's face was a canvas of bruises and blood, his body marked with swelling and crimson welts. Moore's right, I was almost completely shut, his left leg nearly dragging behind him, his nose flattened and streaming blood. But there was no retreat in either man's eyes, just resolve. They touched gloves, finally, not out of tradition, but out of mutual respect earned through punishment. Then they fought like it was the last round of their lives. Moore lunged forward with a wild hook, knowing he needed a finish. Osuna saw it coming, slipped to the outside, and countered with a brutal right elbow across Moore's cheekbone. The flesh split open instantly, blood pouring down as Moore stumbled. But instead of stepping back, Moore grabbed the clinch again and muscled Osuna against the cage. His energy was erratic now, desperate, but raw power still pulsed through his arms. He delivered short, savage uppercuts to Osuna's ribs, trying to wear him down, trying to break his foundation. Osuna winced, but his hands stayed busy. He fired knees up the middle and framed off Moore's face, then reversed the position. From there, he unleashed a series of sharp elbows to the forehead. The crack of bone on bone echoed through the crowd. Moore's blood was now smeared across Osuna's forearms, his own face a ghastly mask. Osuna broke the clinch and created distance. He knew Moore was fading. He feinted a low kick, then stepped in with a left hook that snapped Moore's head to the side, then a front kick to the body that made Moore double over. The striker was dismantling the brawler piece by piece. But Moore didn't fall. Somehow, he stood upright and fired jab. It was slow, weak, but it connected. He followed with a right hand that missed badly, and Osuna punished him with a spinning back kick to the liver. Moore dropped to a knee. It looked like it might be over. The referee hovered, but Moore stood again. He refused to break. Osuna stepped forward with a quick combination. Jab, cross, head kick, but Moore blocked the high shot with one arm and countered with a looping overhand right. It landed clean. Osuna's legs wobbled. The crowd gasped. Moore sensed it. He moved in with renewed purpose, throwing everything he had left: hooks, uppercuts, even a wild elbow. Osuna was cornered. Moore cracked him with a left hook to the jaw, and Osuna fell into the fence.